This is Tom Bain, and this is Wine, Money, and Song. If you find the content of this channel of interest, please subscribe. And if you have like-minded friends who are interested in wine, please tell them about it. And in comments, please let us know what subjects you would like us to cover and if there's wines you want us to react to. This episode, we're going to talk about Robert Mondavi, who I consider to be a great pioneer of Napa and also of California wines in general, and what he meant to the wine industry. To start out, in 1943, his father, Caesar, he sold grapes to be shipped back to the East for home winemakers. So the family was stewed in wine drinking, winemaking from Italy. And when they came to America, they were in that business. And Robert said, why don't we buy Charles Krug Winery, which was one of the first wineries. I think it was 1861 it opened up. And it was one of the first California wineries. And they bought the winery. The Mondavi family bought the winery. And Charles Krug was making varietal wines way before anyone else. Them and Inglenook were the real trailblazers of those European qualities. So when Robert Mondavi started to work with his family on making the wines, he wanted to make more high quality wines instead of the strong red Sunday Italian style wines that people have with pasta on Sunday. He traveled to Europe, and when he went to Bordeaux, he came back and he had the bug. He went to his family and said, we're going to make wines that can rival the quality of those wines made in Bordeaux and those wines made in Europe. And he fought with his family for years, and finally it came to a head where he sued his family. And that's something you don't do in an Italian family generally. And it was bitter. Went to court, and he wound up winning a share of the value of Charles Krug Winery. So what he did in 1966, he opened up his own winery in Napa, and it was the first new bonded winery in 30 years to be opened. So that's a long time. And what Robert Mondavi did is he plowed a lot of money. He was a great PR guy. He was a great brand ambassador. And he was a marketing genius. So he raised the money, and then he started to make better wines. He hired great winemakers from the University of Davis and other veterans around. Some of the more famous people, Bill Bonetti, Zelma Long, I think, worked for him, Lee Stewart. Great winemakers worked for Robert Mondavi, and he gave them the capital and gave them the facilities, the winemaking ability, and really looked after the vineyards and spared no expense. In 1979, they opened up Woodbridge, which was located in Lodi, and it was very inexpensive wines, but they wanted to increase the sale. The Sons wanted to do that. And then about that time, they joined in partnership with Mouton Rothschild to make Opus 1 wines, which were very expensive, limited production wines made in Napa, but made with Mouton Rothschild winemakers. And then they started doing joint ventures in the 80s with people in Italy and people in South America. They were spinning a lot of plates. And they decided, because they needed money, they went public. They went public in the 90s. And they had great pressure to increase revenue, and the only way they could increase revenue was go to the lower common denominator, commodity wines, and pump those sales up. Even though the margins were less, it was higher revenue. And by 2005, they were forced to sell the company to Constellation Brands for $1 billion. Now, I'm going to summarize what I feel what happened with them and why they lost their empire. So, how do I wrap up and summarize what happened to the Robert Mondavi winery and Robert Mondavi himself? Well, when he sold out the Constellation, he got $1 billion, and they were very rich, but they sold their name. They sold their heritage. And why did that happen? Why did that happen? And as I said before, Robert Mondavi was a marketing genius. He was a PR guy. He would talk about Napa Valley wines. Great PR guy for the California wine industry. And he helped the premium wines went off the map with Mondavi's help. That all of the wines that he made a Sauvignon Blanc that he called Fumé Blanc, and he oak aged it, and it was very popular. And he publicized Sauvignon Blanc, where it became a major category. And his Cabernets were world-class wines. His reserve wines started going for $30, $40, $50, and went to $100. No one ever did that in California. Robert Mondavi did that because of his unfailing work at publicizing Napa Valley wines and his wines and quality of wines. But what happened? Why did they fail? They took their eye off the ball. They made their image through quality wines. And the sons, I don't know if it was just the sons, the shareholders, whoever it was, they wanted to make this huge company. And the way to make it huge was by selling a lot of cheaper commodity wines. And when they went that way, they took their eye off the ball, concentrating on quality wines, and the Mondavi name started to go down in prestige. And he was just doing too many things with other people, other countries, and they just didn't focus on the Robert Mondavi premium wines. And the competition got very hot in that area. And from them being on the top, they slowly started fade to the middle. And you have to understand when you're in business, understand what business you're in. And Robert Mondavi Winery was in the quality varietal business in California. And when they started going low end, Woodbridge, and a number of other wines that they made, they let the premium end just sit out there. And you can't take your eye off the ball. Now, what's his legacy? His legacy is that when no one else was 100% sold on making premium wines, he put everything into it. And he was super successful. That every other California winery now that is basking in high prices, the way was paved by Robert Mondavi Winery. That everyone else could never sell a wine over $5 or $10. Mondavi paved the way for them with their reserve wines and with his concentration of hiring great winemakers, growing great grapes, and him as a force in the wine industry of being out there shouting at the top of his lungs that the quality of his wines were equal to that of all of the European wines. And I think he did a great job at that. And it's unfortunate that he had to sell his name. And in a way, he was juggling too many things. He had committed to charities so much money, and the only way he could pay those commitments was by selling the company. And that's sad, but he still has that legacy of paving the premium avenue for the rest of California wines.